"Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Don't light that." That's what she said, sharply like the flame offended her. I was crouched by the cake, match in hand, smiling like an idiot. It was just one candle, one flame, one wish. She didn't say, "Happy birthday." She didn't smile. She didn't even look at me. Just stormed past, heels clicking hard against the floor like she was mad at the house for existing. I remember I was still kneeling, holding the match, trying to process what just happened. I was alone in that moment, in the quiet, staring at a cake I bought myself. The kind she used to make from scratch. The kind she used to smudge frosting on my nose with. That felt like a different lifetime. From the living room, I heard her drop her keys, hard, like she wanted them to make a point. Then her voice, flat and exhausted. "Did you seriously take the day off for this?" My fingers twitched. The match burnt down and stung my skin. I shook it out and stood up. "I thought we'd spend the evening together," I said carefully. Too carefully. Like every word I spoke lately might set her off. "Like we used to." That was it. That was the trigger. She spun around and unloaded. "I can't do this," she snapped. "This thing where I come home and you've played house like some pathetic rom-com. Do you think this fixes anything? You sitting here like a kicked puppy with a candle and a plate?" My throat clenched. I didn't know what to say. I don't think there was anything I could have said. The room felt too big, too cold. The candle flame was still flickering, like it didn't realize it wasn't welcome either. And then she saw me. I mean, really saw me. My expression, my hands, maybe the way my shoulders dropped like her words had weight. Maybe too much. Her tone softened instantly. "Oh, Everett. Wait. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just tired. I love you, okay?" I wanted to believe her. I really, really did. But as she walked away, I noticed her phone light up on the counter behind her. A message, just a quick flash. But the name wasn't mine. It was Kellen, and it said, "Did you give him the speech?" LOL. Tell me how he looked when you said it. I stood there, blinking at her phone like it had just insulted me to my face. Did you give him the speech? That one sentence spun in my head like a cruel echo chamber. She called it a speech, something planned, something scripted, something shared with someone else. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I stared at that message until the screen went dark, hiding the proof like it never existed. She had already gone to the bedroom, muttering something about needing a shower, peeling off her coat like it weighed her down. I stayed in the kitchen, surrounded by silence, frosting, and the ache in my stomach that told me everything I didn't want to believe. I knew I shouldn't, but I picked up her phone. Hands trembling, breath held, I opened it, no password. She never needed one with me. That was the real joke. There were messages, dozens, some deleted, others still there like she forgot or didn't care if I saw. The thread with Kellen went back weeks, months. It wasn't graphic, she wasn't that careless, but it didn't need to be. The tone alone told the truth, the way she talked about me to him, like I was some bland wallpaper in the background of her life. "He still writes me little notes and leaves them by my pillow," she'd texted. "I think it's supposed to be romantic, but it feels like a kid trying to fix a broken toy." Kellen replied, "That's what you get for marrying a poetry nerd. He's probably going to write you an emotional essay when you leave him." And she laughed. She typed, "I know." That laugh crushed me. Not because she had one with someone else, but because it meant she had none left for me. My face in the reflection of the oven glass looked pale, smaller. My shoulders had curled inward without me realizing. I hated how weak I looked, like I was folding in on myself. Like Kellen and Brielle had already rewritten my story, and I was just a sad footnote. I didn't say anything that night. I climbed into bed beside her like a ghost. She curled away from me, said, "Happy birthday," in a voice that didn't touch me at all, and fell asleep within minutes. I stared at the ceiling, fingers clenched under the sheets, silently rehearsing a speech of my own. But I didn't give it. Not yet. Instead, the next morning, I did something I never thought I would. I called out of work, drove across town, and parked 2 blocks away from a gym I'd never been to. The one Brielle swore she only used for yoga, the one where Kellen worked, and I waited. From inside my car, the gym looked painfully ordinary. Bright glass windows, gray brick, generic branding. But knowing what I knew now, the place radiated a kind of quiet betrayal. I sat 2 blocks down with a lukewarm coffee I wasn't drinking and a stomach full of static. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't stalking. I wasn't spiraling. I just needed to see him. Kellen. The man who laughed about me in messages. The man who made my wife look at her phone the way she used to look at me. An hour passed. Nothing. I kept imagining worst-case scenarios. Him showing up with Brielle, them kissing in the parking lot, her laughing at something stupid he said, while I melted behind a windshield like a coward. But when he finally appeared, it wasn't like that. He came out alone, tall, smug, stupid sunglasses. He wasn't dressed like a trainer, more like a man who wanted attention but didn't need to try for it. He stood by his car talking to someone on the phone. Even from a distance, I could tell he was relaxed, loose shoulders. That lazy grin that probably got him out of every mistake he ever made. I couldn't hear his voice, but I didn't need to. His body language said enough. He wasn't wondering if he'd been found out. He wasn't nervous. He had no fear in him. He had already decided I didn't matter. When he laughed and leaned against his car, I knew he was talking to her. That laugh was too familiar, too practiced. It was the same laugh she used to have with me before everything started slipping sideways. I didn't get out. I didn't confront him. What would I have even said? Hey, I read your texts. Mine not sleeping with my wife? I just sat there feeling something inside me crack slowly. Not like glass, but like ice. A slow, spreading fracture that made everything colder. He drove off after a few minutes, and I stayed parked for 20 more, staring at nothing, thinking about how far things had drifted without me noticing, how I'd been holding on to someone who'd already let go, and worst of all, how I still wasn't angry. Not the way I should have been. Instead, I was ashamed. Ashamed of how much I still loved her. Ashamed that even now, I was clinging to scraps of hope like a man drowning with a photo in his hand. I drove home slowly, trying to convince myself I could pretend a little longer. But when I got inside, something had changed. The air felt different. Not just emptier, but disturbed. Like someone had moved things while I was gone. Her keys weren't on the hook. A pair of heels were missing. A drawer in the hallway stood slightly open. It hit me like a slap I didn't see coming. She wasn't at work. She had left before me that morning, said she had meetings. But if Kellen had been at the gym, where was she? I stood in our hallway, surrounded by signs I couldn't ignore anymore, and something inside me finally shifted. I wasn't going to ask questions anymore. I was going to get answers. It started as a half-formed idea. One of those quiet thoughts you immediately try to push away because it feels wrong, invasive. But it doesn't disappear. It lingers in the corners of your mind until it sounds reasonable, even necessary. That's what happened with the voice recorder. I'd bought it 2 years ago when I thought I was going to start podcasting, back when I still believed in personal projects and quiet dreams. It had just been sitting in my desk drawer, buried under rejection letters from literary agents and warranties for appliances we no longer owned. That afternoon, after returning from the gym parking lot, I pulled it out, charged it, and stared at the blinking red light for 15 minutes straight. My hands shook when I finally placed it beneath the dresser in our bedroom, tucked between some old socks and an empty shoebox. A coward's move? Maybe. But asking Brielle directly had become like poking a hornet's nest with my bare hand. She came home late again. No explanation. No guilt in her eyes. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong. Like I was still the man she chose instead of the one she settled for. I went to bed early, pretended to sleep, while she stayed up scrolling through her phone, her screen's blue glow flickering across the ceiling like a siren. In the morning, I left early for a fake appointment. I told her I'd be back late. I wasn't. I just sat in my car around the block, watching the windows of my own house like a stranger. She didn't leave. Around noon, a car pulled into the driveway. Not Kellen, someone else. Some guy in a charcoal hoodie and gray joggers. He didn't stay long. 20 minutes at most. I couldn't see clearly, but I didn't need to. I had my answer. Back inside, I retrieved the recorder with hands that didn't feel like mine anymore. I listened in the garage, sitting on the cold floor, my knees pulled to my chest like I was 10 again. The recording was faint, full of background noise and the hum of life moving on without me. But I heard it. Her voice. Soft at first, then clearer. "I told you not to come today," she whispered. Then a man's laugh. Not Kellen, someone else. "Relax. He left, right?" A pause. Then, "He's always leaving. That's the problem." My heart cracked, not because of the betrayal, but because of the calm in her voice. She wasn't panicked, she wasn't conflicted, she was settled in it, like this had been happening long enough for the fear to fade. Then came the worst part. The man. Do you think he suspects anything? Her response after a brief silence. Even if he does, what's he really going to do? That one sentence played on repeat in my mind long after the recorder went silent. She wasn't just cheating. She didn't just fall out of love. She had already written me off. A man too passive, too soft, too wrapped up in wishful thinking to ever stand up for himself. And maybe she was right. But something in me shifted that day. I was still the same man. The emotional note leaver, the dinner planner, the dreamer. But now, I was also a man with a plan, and for the first time in months, I wasn't just waiting to be heard again. I was going to collect every piece, every word, every lie, and when I was done, she wouldn't see it coming. The next morning, she left in a rush, claimed she was late for a strategy meeting, which was her new favorite excuse lately. I watched from the kitchen window as her car reversed out of the driveway. I waited 3 full minutes. Then I went into the bedroom, opened her nightstand drawer, and pulled out the only thing she never bothered to hide, a plain white envelope with my name on it in her handwriting. It had been there for 2 days, a birthday card, unopened, unoffered, forgotten. For a second I thought maybe this would be it. Maybe inside, I'd find something real, a sliver of the woman I used to know, some words that weren't laced with contempt or obligation. I peeled the envelope open, trying not to tear it, because somewhere deep inside, some broken part of me still thought it might be special. The card was generic, pre-printed message, barely personalized. Just a rushed, love you B. But it wasn't the words that wrecked me. It was what fell out. A folded hotel receipt. Dated 3 days before my birthday, room 216. Check-in, 3:14 p.m., check-out, 11:02 a.m., 2 guests. The name on the reservation wasn't hers. It wasn't Kellen's either. It was Jonas Rivera. I sat down on the edge of the bed, staring at that name like it held a meaning I was supposed to understand. Jonas. I had never heard her mention a Jonas in the entire time we'd been married, not once. I checked her contacts. No Jonas, no Rivera. Nothing that even hinted at who this man was. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened her laptop. It was synced to her Gmail. She had no idea I even knew the password, but I did. She once said she used her mother's birthday for everything. I remembered, and there it was, a chain of emails, hundreds of them, filed under a hidden folder named Tides. Like some inside joke I was never meant to get. The messages were carefully written, vague, coded, never overt. But they painted a clear picture. Jonas wasn't a fling. He wasn't new. He'd been in the background of our life for over a year. They talked about me like I was a piece of old furniture she couldn't figure out how to get rid of. She's going to tell you soon, Jonas had written in one email. You just have to hang on. Play it nice for a few more weeks. Once we're out in the open, everything will be different. Out in the open? The way my stomach dropped reading those words. I don't know how to describe it. Like the floor fell out from under me, but I was still standing somehow. I realized they weren't just planning a future. They were planning my exit from it. I closed the laptop and sat in silence for what felt like an hour. My birthday had been a performance. Her apology, her affection, all scripted, all delivered to keep up appearances until they could execute whatever plan they had whispered about behind my back. But what they didn't know, what Brielle had completely underestimated, was that I wasn't just the man who wrote her notes and bought his own birthday cupcake anymore. I was done playing the part of the gentle fool. I didn't know who Jonas Rivera really was. Not yet, but I was going to find out. And when I did, I would make sure neither of them ever forgot who I was. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there beside her, my back to the edge of the bed, staring into the dark while she slept like someone with no secrets. Occasionally she'd shift and brush against me, and I'd flinch like her skin burned. At 3:12 a.m., I got out of bed and quietly walked to the kitchen, sat down at the table with the hotel receipt still in my pocket, and opened my laptop. If Jonas Rivera was a ghost in my marriage, I was going to give him a face. It didn't take long. Social media leaves digital fingerprints everywhere. He wasn't on Facebook, but I found a LinkedIn profile with the same name, same spelling. He worked in corporate wellness consulting, whatever that meant, based in the same city. The company name matched a vendor Brielle had mentioned months ago when she claimed they were revamping employee benefits. I remember because I asked her if they'd finally add dental. She laughed and said I was too obsessed with clean teeth. I dug deeper. Company Instagram, tagged photos. Then finally I found him, Jonas, late 30s, fitness obsessed. One of those guys who wears a business casual smile like it's a costume. And there she was, Brielle, in one of the photos, from a team-building retreat she said had been mandatory. She stood next to Jonas, laughing at something out of frame, her hand not on his shoulder, but just close enough. Close enough that it told a story without touching him. She never mentioned him, not once. She had made up Kellen as a decoy, to throw me off, to let my anger fizzle out in the wrong direction, while Jonas moved through our life like a shadow. But what came next made everything worse. I found a comment under that photo from a woman named Darcy Wells. It read, "Glad to see you two finally working together again," and something about that word, again, made me pause. I clicked on Darcy's profile. She followed Jonas. She followed Brielle. She also followed someone else I recognized, my wife's sister. That's when the puzzle twisted. These weren't strangers. Jonas wasn't new. He was a part of her world before me. I started connecting dots I didn't know existed. An old photo from over a decade ago, a group shot from what looked like a wedding, and in the back, barely visible, a younger Brielle sitting beside Jonas. They weren't just acquaintances. They had a history. That's when the bottom dropped out. I searched my wedding photos. My hands trembled as I pulled them up. One of the distant family group shots, the kind you never really look at twice. And there he was, Jonas, standing at the edge. Cropped in, but unmistakable. He had been at my wedding. He watched me marry her. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it had collapsed inward. Everything I thought I knew was rotting from the inside out. This wasn't some new affair. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a long con. A carefully masked history buried beneath years of deception. Brielle didn't just fall out of love. She may have never loved me at all. I hadn't spoken to Brielle's sister, Mallory, in almost a year. She and Brielle had a falling out after some family trip, where Mallory called her out for always needing a backup plan. At the time, I thought she was just being dramatic. Now, I wasn't so sure. That night, after finding Jonas in our wedding photo, I sat in the dark with nothing but the glow of my laptop and a single contact lit up on my screen. I hovered over her name for what felt like forever. Then, I hit call. It rang twice before she answered. "Everett," she said cautiously. "Is everything okay?" "Not even close," I whispered. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." A long pause. I could hear her TV in the background, something with a laugh track. Then she turned it off. "If this is about Brielle, you better be ready for the answer." "I found a receipt," I began, my voice dry, "and photos, and emails, and—" Jonas. The moment I said his name, she let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped for years. She didn't ask who he was. She didn't pretend not to know. "You found out," she said quietly. I didn't speak. I just waited. "I always thought she'd tell you herself," Mallory continued. "I warned her this would blow up eventually. But she's Brielle. She thinks she can juggle fire and never get burned." "Just tell me," I muttered. "How long has it been going on?" There was another pause, then the truth. "Before you," she said. "She and Jonas were on and off since college. He was always in the background, even when she dated other guys, even when she married you. I think she married you because he was with someone else at the time." I felt sick. "She said you were stable, safe. The kind of guy who wouldn't question things." "Her words, not mine," Mallory added. "She said you'd give her the life she needed, while Jonas was the one she really wanted." I sat there in stunned silence. I couldn't even cry. There was no heartbreak left, just a cold, hollow ache that swallowed everything. Mallory wasn't done. "There's something else," she said. "I shouldn't tell you, but you deserve to know." "What?" "The pregnancy scare. 5 years ago. Remember?" I swallowed. "Yeah." She told me it was a false alarm. "It wasn't," Mallory said. "She was pregnant. And she told me, swore to me, that she wasn't sure who the father was. You. Or Jonas." My throat closed. I remembered that month. I remembered how emotional she was, how distant, How relieved she seemed when she told me it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was a lie buried in a smile, wrapped in silence. She told me if the test ever came back positive again, she'd never tell anyone the truth, Mallory said. Not even you. I couldn't respond. I think part of me shut down right then and there. Brielle hadn't just cheated on me. She had written a version of our life that I was never truly part of. I was just filling in the spaces until her real life came back around. But she had underestimated me. She thought I'd stay in the fog forever. Now I had everything. The emails, the recordings, her sister's confession. All I needed was the right moment. And that moment came faster than I expected. I didn't want a screaming match. I didn't want revenge or drama or public exposure. I didn't even want an apology anymore. I wanted something she never expected from me. Closure. Real, undeniable, silent closure. So I spent 2 days putting it all together. The email screenshots, the voice recording, the photo of her and Jonas at our wedding, a printed copy of the hotel receipt. Mallory even agreed to write a short signed statement confirming everything she told me. It wasn't about proving anything to the world. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't crazy, that the hurt was real, that I didn't imagine the betrayal. Then I wrote one last letter, not poetic, not emotional, just facts. Calm, honest, final. I told her I knew everything, that I wasn't going to fight or beg or try to fix what was never whole to begin with, that I hoped she found whatever it was she kept chasing, but it wouldn't be with me. I placed it all in a small box, wrapped it the same way I used to wrap her birthday gifts, neat, thoughtful, with a little gold ribbon. I left it by the front door with my keys on top. She wasn't home. She had gone to dinner with a coworker, and this time, I didn't care which lie it was. Then I left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't take one last look at the house. I just walked to my car with the lightness of a man who had finally stopped drowning. I stayed at a friend's place that night. The next morning, I got a text from her. No words, just a photo. It was the open box, papers scattered, her hand over her mouth. She looked like a woman who had just been hit with a truth she never thought would land. She called me 13 times. I didn't answer once. A week later, the divorce papers were filed. Clean, no fights, no money battles. She didn't contest a thing, maybe because she knew the truth would only hurt more if dragged into the open. Or maybe she finally realized she lost the one person who actually believed in her when no one else did. Now, it's been 8 months. I've started writing again. For me this time. No more letters to save someone else. Just stories to rebuild myself. I don't hate her. I don't love her either. I'm just free. Funny thing is, I used to think walking away meant losing, but sometimes it's the quiet exit that wins everything. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. Comment below. What's a historical moment where someone walked away and it changed everything? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true stories just like this.